Okay, so good day and welcome again to the Covenant Science tutorial vlog here on the YouTube. Okay, this is our YouTube channel strictly for science education, alright, and it covers all major science courses or subjects from the ordinary level, which is the SS1, SS2, SS3, or otherwise known as the high school subjects, and even for students preparing for the UTME, the SSCE, NECO, GCE, and more interestingly, for students who are in their first year as freshmen or freshwomen of any prestigious university within or outside Nigeria. Okay, and uh, they happen rather to be studying science courses. Okay, like medicine, dentistry, biology, physics, radiology, radiography, physiotherapy, and so on. Okay, you're welcome. But on this episode, I would be dealing with a 100 level course, which is the general animal biology. Okay, so this is the first teaching on this particular course. So I will advise that if this is your first time of joining us on this channel, you subscribe to the channel and turn the notifications button on. Okay, and then ensure you also like our videos here so that it can gain more reach to persons who may need the content that we have here on. Okay, also you're free to share our teaching videos or share our channel links with your friends and classmates, inviting them also to get impeccable knowledge right here on the Covenant Science Tutorial YouTube channel. Thank you very much. So let's get right to it. Today I'll be speaking on the general animal biology, which we call AEB, and I'm going to be speaking on chapter 1, the relationship between organisms. Okay, I believe we are all familiar with the word relationship. Relationship has to do with association. Yes, how living things, not non-living things now per se, how living things interact with one another in a particular, let's say, a particular environment or ecosystem. Okay, so this topic is actually crucial as it shows us the basic kinds of association that organisms share amongst one another. You see that now? Excellent. So interrelationship or relationship among organisms just tells us about the associations, the kinds of unions, the kinds of interactions, the kinds of relationship that animals or even plants enter with one another and equally with themselves. All right. So ecologically speaking, in an environment, we have what we call the biotic factors and the abiotic factors. The biotic factors are the living components of the environment, which are chiefly the plants and the animals. These are the living components. All right. The abiotic factors are other components of the environment that are non-living. Yes. So components like temperature is abiotic, humidity is abiotic, and what have you. All right. So when we teach on interrelationship between organisms, our focus is mainly on the biotic component. That is to say, our focus is mainly on the association that exists between or among living things. All right. Now, for the case of this particular study or for this particular class, we are going to make use of an outline. Okay, what you are expected to know. Okay, and number one, let's use alphabets. The first thing you are expected to know here is something we call predation. Okay, predation. Now, predation, this is the first topical concept in this chapter. Predation is a system of interaction, or it's a kind of relationship that exists between two kinds of organisms. Okay, one is called the predator, and the other organism is called the prey. So, in the predatorial relationship, or in a relationship we call predation, in an environment, okay, or in a certain, should we say, a habitat or community, as the case may be, predation occurs between two kinds of animals. All right, one is said to be the predator, and the other is said to be the prey. Okay, now the predator is usually the hunter, while the prey is the hunted. The predator is usually the stronger one. Okay, the predator is usually the stronger one. So in terms of strength, the predator is stronger. In terms of size, the predator could equally be bigger. Yes. Hence, it is called the predator. So it is larger in size, or probably of same size, but happens to be stronger. Okay. And then, as a result of evolutionary trends as well, and certain features that these predators possess, it makes them deadly in the community. Okay, so in predation, it is the relationship between a predator and a prey, where the predator feeds on the prey. You see that now? Excellent. Now, for predator-prey relationship to be discussed successfully, we also need to talk about the adaptations that predators and prey possess. Okay, adaptations that predators possess that help their hunting, and the adaptations that prey possess that help or guarantee their safety or their escape from predators. You see that? Now, all of these activities and relationships in the community or in an ecological setup goes a long way to determine a lot of things in that particular ecological setup. Yes, these relationships determine the distribution of animals or even organisms in that particular community. All right. These relationships guarantee what we call continuity of life or continuity of existence. Yes, all of these relationships that living things enter with one another in their environment is to guarantee their continued existence. That is to say, in order for these living things not to go into extinction. Now, what are the adaptations possessed by predators that help their hunting? Number one is speed. Predators are usually faster. Yes, they have the benefit of speed. Number two is what we call acute senses or heightened senses. For example, the sense of vision, just like an eagle observing its prey from up very high in the skies. All right, to the point that in the English language, we have a certain expression known as to be eagle-eyed, and it means to be clear-sighted. Okay, so predators usually possess acute senses, heightened senses, which help their hunting. All right, some of these predators are able to spot their prey from a very long distance with accuracy, simply because of their heightened senses. We also have what we call acute sense of smell. Yes, tracking prey by their scent. This is also an adaptation possessed by predators. All right. Also, predators possess strength. They are usually stronger than the prey. You see that now? So they can actually overpower the prey. Yes. All right. These are some of the adaptations that predators possess that give them an edge or an added advantage over prey or help their hunting exercises. All right. So predators possess characters or certain features that help them in their hunting spree. Alright. Now remember we said the predation or the predatorial relationship exists between two kinds of organisms. The first one is called the predator and the second is called the prey. So the predator is usually the hunter and is usually stronger. The prey is usually the hunted, okay, and it's usually smaller in size or of equal size. But then, as a result of evolutionary trend or as a result of certain culture that has been passed down from ancestors even to newer generations, okay, it has been established that these particular sets of animals are food for these. All right, while these particular sets, known as the predators, are hunters or killers of this other group. Okay, excellent. Now, don't forget that predators are not the only ones who possess adaptations that help them carry out hunting successfully. Okay, remember we said that predators have speed, they have strength, these are adaptations. Predators equally possess what we call acute senses, sight, smell, hearing. It aids their hunting activity. All right, and then predators equally possess what we call powerful claws, sharp claws for grasping, for holding down prey. All right, and then they possess very sharp tooth. An example is what we call the carnivory tooth, okay, that helps for cutting, for tearing, okay, which is needed for their feeding. You see that? Excellent. Now, what are the adaptations that prey possesses that helps them, get past predators? Number one, prey possess something we know as mimicry. Okay, so mimicry from the word mimic means to imitate. All right, and there are two types. So what is called the Mullerian mimicry and the Batesian mimicry. Okay, but what you need to know is this: in mimicry, the prey resembles or mimics another particular kind of organism, either of the same species or different, okay, that is poisonous or that is dangerous. Yes, we find this mainly among insects. They manifest this particular kind of behavior. Yes, where one that is not deadly, okay, but is actually a prey to certain kinds of predators, mimics another species that is actually deadly. Yes. So when they do this, when the predator sees that prey, all right, it knows that this particular species is deadly. So it ensures it doesn't hunt it or eat it because the predator will be harming itself. You see that now, all right? But unknowing to the predator, this particular species is the harmless one, but because of mimicry, it looks like the harmful one. Do you get that? Excellent. All right, so that's what we call predator and prey relationship. Now, what else do preys possess that help for their escape from predators? We have something else known as warning coloration. Okay, we have the presence also of spikes, just like you see in the porcupine. It's a defensive mechanism against predators. All right, it possesses spikes, yes, such that when it is cornered, when it is endangered, it releases those spikes to protect itself. All right, you find this manifestation too um, in the poison dart frog, the poison dart frog, yes. All right, certain amphibians too, when being hunted, produce what we call offensive odor, an offensive smell from their body which repels predators. You see that now? Excellent. So that is that for the predator-prey relationship. Now, what else do we need to know In the predator-prey relationship, we have subcategories. The first category we have is called Carnivory. The second category we have is called Herbivory, while the last category we have is called Parasitoidism. These are the three main categories of predation. So in carnivory, we are dealing with flesh-eating animals. So in carnivory, the predator is actually a flesh-eating animal. Yes, an animal that feeds on flesh and blood. And such an animal is called the carnivore. Yes. So you find this type of relationship um, between lions and zebras or deer, okay, or even the antelope. So when lions hunt down animals like the zebra, the deer, okay, and feed on their flesh, that is what we call carnivory. You see that now, all right? Now, to equally send a message home, the zebra, remember we said that predator and prey alike possess adaptations that help them, okay, in this particular relationship. Yes, prey possess adaptations that guarantee their survival. Yes, because if they don't possess these adaptations and they are continually being preyed on, a time will come their distribution in a particular community will become diminished. Their total population will deplete, and if this continues unchecked, unhindered, it could lead to what we call a population extinction. They could be wiped out completely. You see that? So the essence of adaptations for prey is to guarantee their safety and survival. All right. Now, in the wild, in the forest regions, zebras possess what we call coloration that protects their presence. All right. Now, when zebras are in groups, a herd, okay, when they are in groups, because of the stripes on their body, when the predator, e.g., a lion, looks at them in group, all right, the stripes distort their body form. So the lion cannot tell that this is a zebra. And if the lion cannot tell, then hunting cannot be executed. You see that now? Good. So that is also an adaptive feature possessed by the zebra to escape predators. All right. So in carnivory, the predator here feeds on flesh. Okay. Number two, we have herbivory. In herbivory, this kind of predation is between a plant-eating animal and a plant. Yes, it's a kind of predation. All right. So in herbivory, we have animals like your cattle, your bull, your cow. They don't feed on flesh. They feed on plants. They feed on grasses. Yes, they eat shrubs and herbs. You see that now? Good. So that is what we call herbivory. All right. We find this relationship among plant-eating animals. Are you there? Then lastly, we have what is called parasitoidism. Now, parasitoidism is a form of relationship involving insect larvae and their prey. Insect larvae and their prey. That is what we call parasitoidism. So the parasitoid is the insect larva that is found growing. Okay, it is carrying out its metamorphosis. You know, insects carry out metamorphosis. Yes. So the insect larva is introduced to the body of the prey, either internally or externally. And then this insect larva draws nutrients. It gains certain benefits from the prey, which it uses for its growth, for its metamorphosis. You see that now? Excellent. So that is what we call parasitoidism. All right. Now, this type of relationship is seen in insects mainly that belong to the order Diptera, Hymenoptera, and Coleoptera. All right. Insects belonging to these orders, yes, manifest this behavior known as parasitoidism. You see that? Yes, they enter into this type of relationship. Now, in parasitoidism, again, we also have to establish here that the parasitoid feeds on its prey, okay, in an organized manner. It's usually very orderly, such that the prey does not die before the larva has completed its metamorphosis. So the insect larva feeds from the prey, okay, and then when it has completed its metamorphosis, the prey dies. Yes, so it does not kill the prey until it is done gaining all the nutrients that it needs or it requires from the prey. You see that now? Excellent. So that is the first aspect of the relationship between organisms. It is known as predation. Okay? Now that we have seen predation, we will look at the second aspect of relationships between organisms. Okay, and this second aspect, remember we're following our outline. This second aspect is a form of relationship we call competition. All right. Now, competition has various types. We have what is called interference. We have what is called preemptive competition. We have what is called apparent competition, and lastly, we have what is called exploitation. Exploitation. You see that now? Okay, so now to make it easier to learn, we use a certain acronym that I call IPACE. IPACE. Okay, so I stands for interference, P stands for preemptive competition, AC stands for apparent competition, and then E stands for exploitation. You see that now? Okay, so we know this using an acronym known as IPACE. All right, I is interference, P is preemptive competition, A is apparent competition, AC rather, apparent competition, and E is exploitation. You see that? Excellent. Now, of all the forms of competitions we have, the main form of competition is regarded as interference and what we call exploitation. These are the main forms: interference and exploitation. Apparent competition is not regarded as a form of competition because here we do not share a resource, we rather share a predator. You see that? Good. Competition as a form of relationship involves sharing of resources. And this classification we have done, or these types of competition we have outlined, are based on what we call the nature, the kind of resource that is being shared. Yes. So the kind of competition that occurs is strictly tied to the resource. Yes. Hence, apparent competition is not regarded as a competition because, or it's not regarded as a true form of competition because it is not a resource-based competition, but a predator-based competition. Now, let's discuss this, shall we? Let's start with I, which is interference. Interference. Okay? In Interference competition, which is also known as consumptive competition. Interference competition is also known as consumptive competition. Okay. In this type of competition, there is really no use of force. Yes, the organisms involved in this competition do not actually fight. They do not exert force. All right. But either directly or indirectly, okay, the utilization of a common resource by one of such species of organisms involved in this competition will affect the availability of that resource for the other. I'll take that again. In consumptive or interference competition, what happens is we have two organisms competing for a common resource. Two organisms. Those two organisms could be of same species or different species, but they need this particular resource. All right. Now, these two organisms do not exert any form of energy as per fighting or dragging for it or contending for it. No. Okay, because these two organisms may not be directly or indirectly involved. Yes, but in consumptive competition, what happens is that the action of one of those species in utilizing the resource, that common resource, is going to affect the availability of that resource for the other species. So it is called consumptive. A typical example of this happens among plant species that compete for a common resource such as water. You see that now? Good. So the utilization of water by one is going to deplete, is going to reduce the availability. Yes, it's going to reduce the amount of that resources available for the other species. So such a relationship or competition is called interference or consumptive. I hope we're learning. Good. Now, number two, based on our order, we have what is called preemptive competition. In preemptive competition, the resource uh, uh, um, that is being dragged or that is being contended for is territory. Please take note of that. In preemptive competition, the main resource being contended for is territory. Yes. So you find an organism coming to a territory first and then is trying to dominate. Yes, it is trying to dominate. It's trying to make sure it has every part of that territory under its control and influence, including the resources present there. So when another organism of same species or similar species, or rather dissimilar species, I beg your pardon, comes into that territory, there's going to be a contention. Yes. So this is what we call preemptive competition. All right. So we could find this among lions because lions are very territorial. All right. You could also find it among lizards. They are gamma lizards. They are equally very territorial. So most animals, especially those that exhibit what we call territoriality, display what we call preemptive competition. The third type we have is called apparent competition. Recall I mentioned that this apparent competition is not a true form of competition because unlike the others, it shares a predator and not a prey. So what we are saying is that in apparent competition, you have two organisms, let's say A and B, and then they have a common predator, which is C. You see that now. Excellent. Now, because they have a common predator, remember that this predator hunts both organism A, and organism B. You see that? Good. So, any decision or any action taken by organism A is going to affect organism B. Do you get that? Yes, because they have same predator. So if that common predator does not find members of organism A, species A, it is going to consume more of species B. You see that? Yes. All right. So when there is a rise in the number of one or a drop in the number of any, it affects the other. So we call this type of competition apparent competition. Do you see that? Very good. The last form of competition we have is exploitation competition. Exploitation competition. Okay. Now, this exploitation competition, all right, usually involves the use of force. Exploitation. Oh, sorry, let's correct something. Exploitation competition is what we call consumptive. All right. Interference competition. Exploitation is consumptive. Let's correct that. Exploitation or exploitative competition is called consumptive, which occurs when we do not use force, but the consumption of a resource by one species affects the availability of that resource for the other species. Please don't mix that up. Remember, we said that. Good. The definition was correct. We just placed the wrong titles to each one. So exploitation competition, which is the last year, is what we explained as what you call consumptive. Interference competition, on the other hand, is what we call contest competition. The other name for interference is contest competition. So this type involves the use of force, all right, where organisms contend for a resource. You see that now? Good. We find this type of competition among the red deer. We see this type of competition in a group of animals known as the red deer. All right. Their males compete during rut. Yes. Their males they compete rather during rut. All right. So they compete for a female mating partner. Yes, that's what we call rut. So rut is their heat period. Yes, when they actually want to reproduce. You see that? Good. So please, the exploitation competition is what we call consumptive. I'm going to explain that again. I said in exploitation competition, also known as consumptive, the resource is the focus. Okay, the consumption of the resource by one of the competitors reduces the total amount of that resource for the other organism. So I gave an example as plants, similar or dissimilar plant species contending for water. Yes. So if we have, for example, in this particular environment now, we have three plants, probably of dissimilar species, all right, and then they need water. Now, if one gets to the water because of its root system before the others, what happens is that it has reduced the total amount of that resource, which is water, that the other plants can utilize. That's what we call exploitative or consumptive competition. The other type of competition we mentioned is preemptive, and I told you it's mainly territorial. Yes, apparent competition, we don't share a resource, rather we share a predator. Then interference is also known as contest competition, all right, and it involves the use of force. Yes. So when we contend, whether as similar or dissimilar species, by use of force, okay, to get resources, we are manifesting what is called contest competition or interference competition. All right. Now, before we end this session, please know that competition is resource based, mainly resource based, and the resources involved in competition are limited. Meanwhile, the organisms who need these resources are unlimited, or rather, they are many when compared to the resource. You see that now? Excellent. Now, when competition happens between organisms of the same or similar species, it is called intraspecific competition. Intraspecific. You see that? Good. But when competition occurs among the similar species, it is said to be interspecific. Competition between similar is intraspecific. Competition between dissimilar, that is species that are unalike, they are different, is said to be interspecific. So what are the resources also that we compete for? Number one, food. Number two, water. Number three, territory. Number four, shelter. Number five, we have what is called mating partners. Yes, mating partners. You see that now? Excellent. All right, so that is what you need to know about competition. Please note lastly that preemptive competition affects greatly of all the types of competition we have. Preemptive affects to a greater extent the distribution of organisms in a community and their behavior. Preemptive competition affects the distribution of organisms in a community and their behavior. Yes, it affects these two factors to a greater extent or degree. Thank you.